Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Parenting and You with me, Dr. Shefali. You know, when we become parents, it is our greatest desire to be better than our parents were with us. At best, we want to be the same, but we definitely don't want to make the same mistakes our parents did. But before you know it, voila, you're making the same mistakes. You're sounding just like your dad did or just like your mother. And many times that horrifies us because the last thing we want to do to our children is inflict any amount of pain that we were inflicted with in our childhoods. Here's the truth. Parenting is incredibly challenging. There are going to be times when we repeat the same patterns. That's what this episode is all about. Listen in, and maybe you will learn a way or two how you can break your childhood patterns and change the dynamic with your children. Coming up next, a mother who is struggling because her daughters are experiencing intense jealousy between them and she doesn't know how to help them, and she's feeling like she's always letting one or the other down. Joining me now is Jacqueline, a mom who says she's struggling with intense jealousy between her three daughters. Jacqueline feels she's always letting one of them down. Hi, Jacqueline. It sounds like quite a struggle. Share with us what's going on.
Hi, Dr. Shefali. Thank you so much for having me. Yes, I have three daughters. They are 8, 5, and 3. Now that we're sort of out of the baby stage, my youngest is 3, really trying to evenly split my time between the three. But I constantly feel like one, if not two, are always feeling let down and jealous. I think there's building a lot of resentment between the sisters and almost like creating wounds a little bit that I'm fearful of repeating my own childhood wounds that I have. Between not only me as a mother to them, but also from each other. I feel like to fully be present and connected with one of them, it almost takes me to push the other two to the side to where they really feel heard and prioritized and connected with me. And it feels often like I'm failing with that. And it feels just, I'm constantly questioning if I'm handling it right, if I'm doing enough. I constantly feel like I'm not doing enough, I should say.
Okay, thank you for sharing. What did you mean when you said your own wounds from childhood? What are you talking about?
Yeah, there's a lot there. So I have been on a journey since I would say the last probably like 3 years, trying to uncover all of that. I became a mom with my oldest, who was 8, and just thought everything from my childhood would erase and I would start fresh. And I thought I could just love this girl and I would be this great mom and give all the love I could have to her, which I did and I tried. And she really was my best teacher in that she showed me where I was broken in a lot of places. So I think once I realized, oh, wow, I have some big wounds. So just a quick example there. She really had a strong rejection towards me, even as a baby, and I could never understand it. A strong preference for my husband. And it really sort of messed with my head of thinking that I'm never doing enough, I'm not good enough. And then now realizing a lot of that is from my childhood. And just to go into a little bit about that, I had pretty chaotic childhood from both my mom and dad's side. So my parents split up when I was 10 and my dad left. And then I really have not had any relationship with him since. So pretty much an abandonment situation. And then my mom, I don't really have any memories from before the divorce. But from when I was 10 on, she really, really struggled emotionally, mentally to handle life as a single mom. And I think partly from the divorce, and I think partly from her own childhood wounds that she never healed from. And I felt like I was the parent a lot of times. I felt like I was trying to keep myself safe. I never felt safe from any caregiver. I had to kind of figure it out all on my own. So yeah, a lot there to unpack.
Okay, thank you. So just really quickly, if you don't mind, I'm going to reflect back some things to you, which may help you, but it may also provoke you. So I'm just prefacing that, but I think you're strong enough to handle it. So the first thing you said about your 8-year-old rejecting you, that needs a very quick reframe because no infant or toddler or young child is ever rejecting us. That interpretation is coming from you based on feeling rejected and abandoned by your own parents. So, because you had a template of being rejectable, of being abandoned by your parents already, when your daughter showed a very natural inclination and preference for the male figure in her life, you felt it was a repetition of being abandoned and rejected. Here you were so ready to love your daughter, and she's showing extra devotion to her father. This happened to me too, by the way, so I understand. And I remember wanting to slip into a sense of victimhood and rejection, but my psychological background, I had done a PhD in psychology, so I knew, hey, a kid that young can't be doing this on purpose. So the way I'm interpreting it is creating havoc in me. And with your past of being rejected and abandoned, it's very natural you would do that. But I need you to realize it was coming from your template, from your blueprint. And that's what we do. We react to situations based on our blueprint, but we think we are reacting based on the situation, but we're really reacting based on the blueprint. So now let's go into your present moment. You have 3 children, and every time you give attention to one and the others protest, you feel you're actually creating in them what was created in you, meaning you feel like you're rejecting them. And you feel they're suffering big wounds because you're rejecting them. So now you're really hyper focused on each one at a time. And am I hurting that one? And you're actually feeling very oppressed by this demand you've made of yourself to now give equal attention. Let's be real. There's no such thing as equality. I mean, is any part of life ever equal for any human being to the next, one to the next? We're all different and we have different needs. So because you're so afraid, based on your own painful childhood, to not be rejected again, you are projecting that and making sure that your kids don't feel rejected again. But what I'm here to tell you is that it's okay within this context to be rejected because they're safe. You're different. You're a different parent. So if they're going to feel rejected and cry or feel jealous, guess what? That's normal when you have 3 siblings. That's not you needing to overcompensate by creating equality. There's no such thing. You can create equity, meaning if one kid got extra attention for 4 days, you can give the other one a little bit more attention. You can make an attempt toward equity, but there is no such thing as equality. Equality means your 11-year-old boy should get the same amount of food as your 5-year-old girl, as the same amount of food as your 6-month-old. Is that possible? No. Equity, meaning based on what they need. So if this one needs more, I'm going to give this one more. If that one needs more attention, I'm going to give that attention. So once you become empowered in this concept of equity, then you can teach your children, I give you what you need. There's more than enough to go around. And sometimes I'm going to not be able to give you what you need because the other kid needs more. And you can teach them that everyone's cup will be filled, but not all at the same time. You can read books to them about jealousy. You can read books about siblings and sharing and everyone feeling left out. And the most important thing you can do is this: include others when you're taking care of one. Meaning, if your little one is crying and needs a lot of attention and the other 2 are feeling left out, according to you, guess what? Recruit them as your helpers, as your mini nurses, as your teachers, as your mini parents, not to give them responsibility, but to include them in the caregiving. If your middle one is feeling rejected, go to the older one. The younger one is too young. So go to the older one and say, hey, remember that day when you were feeling left out, you were feeling sad? Guess what? Your sibling is feeling sad. What can we do to help her? And then you can both conspire to help that one. And then when it's the other one's turn, you can recruit the other one. In this way, you can show them all that you are trying to fill everybody's cup, but everybody's cup will not be filled at the same time. And that is okay. You're projecting that they are going to be rejected and wounded. No, they're going to learn that this is what happens in a family. Not everyone gets fed at exactly the same time.
I think you hit on something really helpful to me, which is that I am looking at rejection as not safe, the opposite of
Yes.
safety. So I don't know a path to where it does equal safety. So I think that you're exactly right. I'm looking at it as a failure, and I have to find a way to make myself realize that even though I'm rejecting someone and that on their end too, that they're not, it's still safe. And I think I have a very strained relationship with safety as it comes to being a child, and when I was a child, and also being a parent and creating safety for my own kids, because that was just not something I ever experienced was true safety.
Yes.
So it's very I've had to work very hard at, creating safety.
Yes, but even the word rejection, right? So one step is to make sure that you understand that rejection doesn't automatically equal danger. So you've done that. But I'm going to take you even one step further. Is it even rejection? In your mind, it's rejection, right? You even interpreted your daughter loving the father or showing preference for the father as rejection. What I'm trying to tell you is you're quick to see rejection because you're primed for rejection from your past. It's like this, right? If you have a friend who's had, whatever, 6 divorces because the partner is cheating. Okay, I'm just giving you a hypothetical situation. Wouldn't that friend be hyper vigilant for signs of cheating?
You would think.
You would think, correct? Well, that's what's happened to you. You're hyper vigilant to, am I being rejected? Am I rejecting? When you become more empowered and safe in your own adult life, when you heal and become more whole, you will begin to discard this whole idea of rejection and instead include more empowering terms such as, I just need to have them wait. They're not being rejected, they're just waiting. They're not being abandoned, they're just learning that their turn will come a little later. I'm actually just teaching them how to share. I'm teaching them delayed gratification, right? Because you're so preloaded with this idea of rejection, say you only had $4 and you could only buy 3 little cupcakes and they wanted bigger cupcakes and you said no, I bet you would feel like you were rejecting them.
Yes.
Right? Because you're so primed to not rejecting that you're so worried that you are rejecting at every turn. And you can't live with this burden. It's a big burden to not reject people at any time. I mean, I've rejected my friends just in this past week because I was too busy, I was distracted, I forgot something. And rejection at that level is just normal human interaction. You're referring to big, profound abandonment, but you're mixing that up with normal human reactions,
Yeah.
right? So life is messy, life gets busy, you're going to be distracted, you're going to give one more and somebody else less. But if you understand that you are operating from a very loving place and you are not your parents, you'll relax and understand that even though they are having feelings, they're not having the same feelings you had. You're projecting those feelings onto them.
100%. And I think they feel that almost guilt. So the rejection that I feel then equals guilt. And they feel that guilt show up in the way that I'm parenting, maybe trying to overcompensate when I have a moment, or over communicate how much I love them. And sometimes they communicate like almost like I'm smothering them a little bit with it. There's a lot there. Yeah.
Yes. And it's all part of your healing. So there's no perfect path for any of us. We are all, working the fine line between overdoing it and underdoing it and overcompensating and then not compensating at all. There's no parent out there that gets it right. So I want you to relax and ease into this because most of us parents put so much pressure. But the beautiful thing about parenthood is that it never ends. So you have a lot of opportunity to keep the balance going and you can rebalance at any point. Don't come from the state of panic that every single day needs to be an equal day for every sibling. It will be impossible to achieve. And I think it will be disempowering to your children because then they're always going to look for equality rather than equity. And I want you to teach them, mommy can only do what she can do. Today we took care of Sally. Tomorrow we're going to take care of David. And day after we're going to take care of Mary. And you're going to teach them, see, Mary's turn came. She just had to wait a little bit. And that approach is so much more healthy because it's realistic versus giving them this illusion that mommy can give equal time to everybody, because that is absolutely not sustainable.
Dr. Shot. Yeah, absolutely.
You have a lot to unpack, your ideas around rejection, your ideas around big feelings, and really empowering yourself that you are doing a great job. You have broken a generational pattern, and your children are going to be so much healthier. They're already way healthier than you ever were at their age, and you need to feel good about that.
I think that's kind of what drives a lot for me is that I'm so afraid of any glimpse of a repeat of my childhood is like danger immediately. I have to stop it. I have to, I immediately feel like I'm a failure, that I've repeated my childhood. Any sort of rejection towards me, it makes me think of how I rejected my mom, and I still do. So I think it's all this like this pattern of I have to be a good mom. I have to do this right. I can't repeat what was done for me because I know how awful it was as a kid. So it's a big burden to carry for sure.
It is, and you're breaking a generational pattern. And any human who is the first pattern disruptor in their family carries the biggest burden. But you, by even doing this much, by being aware this much, you've already changed your daughter's future. And it can't be perfect, but you've already made a huge difference in generations to come. So I think you need to honor that about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right.
Thank you so much for sharing and being so vulnerable.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
This story really touched my heart. You know, Jacqueline is like so many parents out there who, because of their childhood traumas, are so worried, hyper focused, and hyper vigilant to not repeat the pattern again in their own families. But actually, that hyper focus and hyper vigilance is actually a pattern repetition, because it comes from this deep anxiety that they are going to mess up. And then because they have this anxiety that they're going to mess up and that they don't want to repeat the same patterns, they actually disconnect from their children and end up repeating a different kind of pattern. It is so incredibly hard to be the pattern disruptor in our families. But for all of those of you listening who've suffered trauma in their childhoods, who want to be the pattern disruptors, the first place to start is through self-acceptance and self-compassion. When we learn to trust ourselves, when we learn to see ourselves as whole and no longer damaged, then we can communicate with our children with a sense of empowerment, joy, and abundance. And that's what our children need the most from us. A sense of a connected parent, a present parent, a parent who is here and not consumed by the guilt and trauma of their past. Coming up next, a mother who is very concerned about her daughter's boundaries around technology and social media. Joining me now is Paula, a mother who is very concerned about her daughter's boundaries around technology. Hi, Paula. You're going to be talking about technology. It's something every parent is struggling with. So tell us what your issues are.
Absolutely. I think this is an amazing topic. I think my issues with technology have changed and evolved as my kids have changed and evolved. So when I first reached out, I was specifically going through a phase where my youngest daughter, who's 11, basically downloaded TikTok behind my back. Even though we've had a really clear core value around no social media until high school, we've had so many conversations around it. If I'm honest, I think my genuine parenting challenge is much deeper than technology. We moved through that challenge, I think, with a lot of grace, where we created a lot of connection, really powerful conversations around the reasons why she chose to do so behind my back, how she felt around it, how I felt around it. Like, it really actually was a great challenge to go through together. And of course, I moved through my own reflection around the fear and my own relationship with maybe the punitive experience I was creating around technology. Long story short, because I could keep going, as I continued to reflect and, we created clear boundaries around it again, we created consequences around the trust core value being broken. And as I've continued to reflect, I think my biggest question and my biggest challenge is, despite the connection, despite the core values, despite the conversations, they're still going to do things that are against that. And of course, they're growing up. One of my daughters is in high school. The other one is just started middle school. So I think my question very much is around, how can I best support them when I'm not there to have those conversations? They live with me 50% of the time, and the other 50% of the time they live with their dad. And the culture of their home there is completely the opposite of what we have here. I love your conversations around let them embrace the unconscious on the other side, where they literally do that every single day. And I just feel concerned that is this enough? Is this open connectedness that we have? Are my core values enough for them to move out into the world, in such a different environment? Yeah, I hope that explains it as best as I can.
It does, for the limits of this conversation. But the most important thing you said right now is that your issues go beyond social media.
Yeah.
Why is that important for every parent out there to realize? Because in every generation, we have a nemesis, we have an enemy. And in this generation, it's social media. And even I'm absolutely convinced that social media is an enemy of our children's ability to be present, to connect, to be empowered and feel worthy. It creates competition and comparison and lack. I agree. I am the biggest advocate for no screens till teens, till late teens. However, that is never the only issue, and you hit the nail on its head. The issue isn't even that they are with you only 50% of the time, because that could be the next enemy. Oh my goodness, my relationship is suffering because now I'm in a divorce. We can fall under the comfort of thinking that is the big issue. But guess what? Even that is not the core issue. And I think you're understanding that. That's why you're here. The core issue is, do my children feel seen by me? Do they feel connected to me? Do they feel I'm a safe place? That is the core fundamental of any relationship, really anyone, with our partners, with our friends, certainly with our children. So don't focus so much on, my core value is that we have good manners, or my core value is that no drinks or drugs. All those are amazing ideals. But your core value really should be, am I a safe place for my child to fall back on? Do I allow my child to express their big feelings? Do I show up in my ordinariness and vulnerability and allow my child to see me as an accessible, humane human? Am I always showing them that I'm willing to fall down but get up again? Those are core values, right? And that can be communicated no matter divorce, no matter rich or poor, in this country or that country. So don't get fooled by the disguises of the distractions. Focus on, who am I being right now with my child in the present moment? I don't have to be there 24/7. They may encounter unconsciousness in the classroom or in the other parenting situation. They may encounter a lot of bullying online. You're not going to be able to bubble wrap your children, but you're going to be able to empower yourself that while you're with them, you're showing up as a human that wants deep connection. That's it. And that's really quite hard for parents to achieve.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And it makes me feel like I'm on the right track, because that is what I'm focusing on. Well, I do agree that it has been a very easy kind of scapegoat to blame the divorce or to blame the other unconscious parent. And that's definitely an energy that I want to really focus on, it not growing in my home. I don't want my kids to feel like they get away with doing this because of the lack of boundaries in the other household. Like, that's never my intention, to demonize the other person by any means. So yeah, this helps by just recognizing that I am on the right track. That moment of finding out that they were doing something so painful to me against my back was a beautiful experience to have. I realized how much fear around it I had. I realized how much control I was really wanting to exert. And my rules of no social media. And I just had to face that. And I also realized the kind of catastrophic thinking I was going into, seeing social media as the enemy so loud and clear. And so moved through it with a lot of vulnerability with them to say, these are all the negative thoughts and beliefs I have about social media. And then these are all the other positive thoughts I have about social media. This is why I'm able to work from home and pick you up from theater practice, because I use social media as my work. So there's really good things. It's just not yet. It's not, this is a never, you won't be able to use it, is a not yet. And in the meantime, what are the things that you want to get out of it so we can find other ways to fulfill those needs? So it was a beautiful conversation. And I think more than anything, maybe I just needed the validation of, hey, you're doing the right thing. You're on the right track.
Yeah, and you know what? What you just expressed is what every parent worries about, right? That their children will get seduced by social media and go down the well and go down the gutter hole and never be able to come out. And I love how you said it. You didn't say no, you just said not yet. And that is such a powerful statement to tell our children. I see you, I know you want this, I get it. And I call it saying yes to the desire, but no to the actual indulgence, right? In my book, The Parenting Map, I have a whole step about how to say yes to desire without giving in. So that's what you did. You said yes, but not yet. And you could empathize with your children, I think, that this is a normal desire. This is not an abnormal desire. And it's her way of being risk-taking, of testing the limits, right? When she downloaded the TikTok, she was testing the limits. And it's what you and I did in our generation by sneaking an extra cookie or trying to escape our house and sneak out the door. This is their way of testing the limits. And parents need to realize one thing more than any other. This is one thing I think most of us parents fail to realize. Every mishap with our children, every glitch is an opportunity to be vulnerable, to talk about our fears, and to connect, right? And that's what you did. You said, hey, I'm not perfect. I'm freaking out. I need help. This is why I'm stuck. Help me out and let me help you out. And let's figure out a way that at the right time, I can give you what you want. And that can only deepen the connection our children feel with us. You see, I always say our children don't want us to be perfect. They just want us to connect to them. And you don't have to have a perfect life. You don't have to have a perfect ex-partner. You don't have to have a perfect relationship right now with anyone in your life. All they want is to see that you are trying, that you are willing to listen, and that you are willing to repair when things go wrong.
Yeah, I love that. I really appreciate the repair piece. I think that made a really huge difference in how we got to move forward. And my oldest daughter is now starting high school, and she's now going to be getting an app. She's getting Snapchat to hang out with her friends. And we're actually making it exciting. Like, this is a cool thing that she has been waiting for. And so I love that, my youngest daughter, Luna, gets to see that. And yeah, like you said, honor the desire, but not the indulgence, and also practice that patience and that, waiting for something can make it more exciting. And now you're more mature. Now you're more clear on what to do and what not to do, etc. So yay, that's helpful. I appreciate it.
And one last thing, because your children don't live with you 50% of the time, many of us parents can fall into the trap of thinking that that is not ideal. It's not ideal, but we may fall into the trap of really catastrophizing it. But instead, you can create beautiful rituals with your children when they're not with you. You can FaceTime with each one of them before they go to sleep. You can send them loving texts. You can play a game of spelling bee over the internet. You can do so many fun shared activities in place of them not being with you physically. And you can do letter writing exchanges. You can send funny pictures every night of each other going to bed, or, there's so many ways you can commemorate this difference instead of looking at it as a lack, right? turn it around, make lemonades out of lemon. I always tell parents, let's alchemize this, let's make it more amazing. Out of the mess, let's create a masterpiece, you know? And so don't fall into this trap of feeling like your life is not as good or you're not giving the best life to your children. And the more you celebrate, the more they will be able to see the power there.
100%. Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for coming. Thank you for sharing. And I'm sure many parents will relate with this.
Beautiful. Thank you.
You know, it's so hard. Parenting is literally one of the hardest things we'll ever do. And no matter how well we're doing it, life is always going to throw a curveball, or culture is going to throw a curveball. You know, we may get a divorce, or culture throws a new social media app, and now all the kids are addicted to that. There's always something that is going to challenge our sanity and our sense of competence. So here's the thing that every parent needs to realize. We can only do the best we can do with the consciousness we have in the present moment. Use every moment with your child as an opportunity to lean in to a greater connection. Convert all the messes and failures and glitches of your life into opportunities for growth, into masterpieces of connection, into moments of eternal love and worth and memories that our children will have forever. Find a way to turn every messy situation around. And that is truly the art and the genius of wisdom consciousness and of conscious parenting. It's never easy, but you can make it way better than it is. I hope you found these stories useful and that you could relate to them in your own life. If you've enjoyed listening and you want to be a guest on one of my next episodes, go to my website, drshefali.com, click on the podcast button, fill up the form, and maybe you will be on my next episode. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you on the next Parenting and You with me, Dr. Shefali. Parenting and You with Dr. Shefali is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not intended as a substitute for professional medical, psychological, psychotherapeutic, coaching, healthcare, or other qualified professional advice, diagnosis, or treatment.